This meeting. And thank you for joining us. This is the Boards and Commission Candidate Review Committee meeting for Monday, August 2nd, 2021. Do a call to order and a roll call, starting with Josh Stecker.
Hi, I'm here.
Robin Denson.
Here.
Community Development Director Katrina Knudsen.
I'm here.
City Councilwoman Jenny Wook.
Here.
And Design Review Board President Brett Marlowe DeSantis.
Here.
Okay, and do we have a approval of the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of July 12, 2021.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the minutes are approved. We can go ahead and start with our first candidate for the Design Review Board. We have 3 candidates. We have 2 positions to fill. The first candidate is Mr. Nick Coastal. Mr. Coastal, can you hear us?
I hope this is him on the phone. I had him earlier as logged in as a panelist, but I've only got him on phone now, if this is him.
Okay. Mr. Coastal, can you hear us? If you can, you're on mute. If you're able to hear us, we're unable to hear you or see you. You're on mute for the caller.
If you're able to hear, pressing *9 on your phone will unmute you.
I see they just raised their hand.
Okay.
Try pressing *6 and see if that works.
Oh,
Something was happening. Still on mute, sir, if you can hear us. Looks like you just
Hello,
unmuted.
this is Nick Coastal. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sorry about that technical difficulty.
Not a problem. Mr. Coastal, is it Coastal or Costal?
Coastal.
Coastal. And do you mind if we call you Nick?
Nope, I prefer it.
Okay, great. No problem. Let me get my questions here. And that's not it. Okay. Nick, please introduce yourself and let us know why you'd like to be on the Design Review Board.
Sure. My name is Nick Coastal. I'm a project manager with Galliano Architecture. I'm interested in being on the Design Review Board to be able to have some input and bring forth any kind of design knowledge or aesthetic preference that I have that might not be consistent with the design manual 17.99 of the municipal code.
Very good, sir.
hey, Nick. The next question is, do you have any knowledge of the Design Review Board and its role?
Yes, I do have knowledge. I've been with the company Galliano Architecture for 3 years now, and we've done multiple presentations to the Design Review Board, sometimes a preliminary presentation, along with follow-up presentations addressing different comments and concerns the Design Review Board brought up during the initial meetings in order to see if we would be able to meet or exceed the design expectations of that design manual.
Thank you.
And Nick, I know you have experience, but I need to ask this anyway. Do you have experience reading and interpreting site plans and elevation drawings?
I do have experience. I've been in architecture since 2014, looking at all different various types of drawings, site plans, elevations, floor plans, landscaping plans, civil plans. I'm very comfortable with the graphic information that they present and what it means and what it could mean brought into a real life situation.
Thank you, Nick.
And Nick, do you possess any particular expertise that would benefit the board?
I think having knowledge of the design review process, the design review board and operations, as well as working for an architecture firm that not only tries to create very cohesive and interesting designs, but also in complying with the design aesthetics for the city of Gig Harbor to either, like I was saying before, meet or exceed what the design manual tries to achieve.
Thank you.
All right, Nick, what do you find special and unique about Gig Harbor?
I'm from a town in East Bay, California called Danville. It's a smaller town similar to Gig Harbor where a lot of history is built into the town. A lot of it can be seen through the architecture. Part of the Gig Harbor aesthetic that I really enjoy is the downtown waterfront. There's a lot of different characteristics that combine the commercial and residential situation down there. And so as a tourist originally and now as a resident, I get to experience it almost every day. So to be able to have a part in seeing what's going on around the city and have some kind of input as to the designs and the imagery of what Gig Harbor tries to present is something that I'm interested in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I know Danville, so yeah. The Design Review Board meets on the second and fourth Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. Do you have any other commitments that would keep you from attending meetings?
I do not have any other commitments during that time.
Thank you.
And Nick, last question. Do you have anything you'd like to add or any questions for us about the Design Review Board?
Not at this point. I understand that it's a volunteer position and it's a 3-year term. And it's just something that I'm excited to be able to put my name in for being considered. I don't think I have any direct questions regarding the design review process at this point, and I'm sure if I do, and I am considered for this position, then I can bring those up at that time.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Nick, for your questions and your time today. We have 2 positions we need to fill, and we have 3 candidates to interview. But I assume that we will have an answer for you by either the end of the day or sometime tomorrow. Is that correct, Josh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, great. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Nick.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Appreciate your consideration and your time.
Thank you.
Our
Bye.
pleasure. Okay.
And we do have
May I say
Larry.
something really quick?
Larry Bradbury is waiting in the lobby, so he's ready whenever you're ready to get to him.
Should we jump right in?
Sure.
Sure. Bring them in.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Bradbury, if you can hear us, we see that you're still on mute. It looks like
Good afternoon. Do you hear me now?
We hear you now. Thank you, sir.
All right.
And Mr. Bradbury, is it okay if we call you Larry?
It certainly is.
Thank you so much, Larry. Well, let's introduce our council members. We've got Robin Denson and Jenny Wook and myself, Spencer Abersold. Thank you for joining us. So we've also got Brett Marlowe here and Katrina Knudsen and Josh Stecker.
All right.
So
Good
we'll start
afternoon
off.
to everyone.
Good afternoon, Larry.
Hi, Larry.
We'll start off with the first question. Please introduce yourself and let us know why you'd like to be on the Design Review Board.
Obviously, my name is Larry Bradbury. I'm currently a member of the Planning Commission, and there was some interest in having a member of the Planning Commission also serve on this board. And so I chose to put my name in for the board. And in addition to that, I have a personal interest in this kind of work because I come out of a background with the Corps of Engineers where I was heavily involved in construction and development projects.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Great, Larry, this is Robin. And my question is, do you have any knowledge of the Design Review Board and its role?
I do have some knowledge of the Design Review Board and how it plays into community development and the projects that are going to be undertaken, but I do admit at this point it's relatively limited.
Okay.
Thanks, Larry. This is Jenny.
Jenny.
Do you have any experience reading and interpreting site plans and elevation drawings?
Quite a bit, actually. As I indicated, I come out of a background with the Corps of Engineers. Prior to that, I was involved with construction projects going back 30 years before that. This involved, in my role as a contracting officer on those projects, a lot of design and plan reviews, working with construction contractors, design engineers, and other folks that were directly involved in executing the projects.
Very cool.
Thank you.
And Larry, do you possess any particular expertise that would benefit the board?
I think probably the two things that I just mentioned, having a background in contracting and also in working directly with engineering staff in the execution of projects.
Thank you.
Okay, Larry, what do you find special and unique about Gig Harbor?
Well, that's a fairly easy one and a fairly common one. We obviously crossed the bridge into a much different environment, and it's much more quiet and rural in nature. Like most of the council members, I think we are oriented towards trying to maintain that sense of a rural community without getting too heavily urbanized. And in that context, a careful evaluation of projects that we undertake, I think, is a very important part of maintaining the sense of community we have. I fully appreciate that some of that can be very difficult to do because the city is under mandates from the state and to some extent federal agencies who put restrictions on the state for monies. And part of the challenge is marrying those kinds of requirements, which sometimes don't dovetail very well with the kinds of things we would like to do, and in fact having embedded in various directives within the city. Things, for example, to maintain a lot of trees where we're being directed to move to higher use development areas. That I think is a unique challenge for our community.
Thank you.
Larry, the Design Review Board meets on the second and fourth Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. You're also on the Planning Commission, which meets on the first and third Thursday of each month. So this would mean every Thursday evening you're at a meeting at City Hall. And I think we all understand the continuity of attending these meetings on a very regular and weekly basis. So do you have any commitments that would keep you from attending these every Thursday night meetings?
These would be a regular Thursday night commitment. I have no others. I admit that there might be times when I would be out of town and would have to either dial in or Zoom in to a meeting, but I have no conflicts on a routine basis.
That's great. And you have a good attendance record with the Planning Commission.
Yes, I believe I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Larry, final question. Do you have anything you'd like to add or any questions for us about the Design Review Board?
No, I don't think so. I've stated my intent and my background and how I think it would fit well with what needs to be done in terms of marrying Planning Commission and design review activities together. So in that context, I think I would be a valuable asset.
Okay, thank you, sir. We do have 3 candidates that we're interviewing today for 2 positions, but we will have an answer to you sometime this afternoon or sometime tomorrow.
That sounds very good. We'll look forward to hearing from you one way or the other.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Good.
Larry.
Have a good one. Everybody have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay, and is Mr. Brown? No.
He's not in yet. He's not scheduled until 2:30. So
Okay,
as soon as I see him pop in, I can let you know.
okay. Well, should we take a 10-minute recess, or is there anything? Feel free to talk amongst yourselves.
So I'd like for Josh to explain to us how these three candidates work. It's my understanding, I think that two of the candidates, this would be their second commission, and the first candidate is Nick Coastal is for a specific position on the design review board. So we have a specific position on the design review board that only Nick Coastal can meet. Is that right, Josh? Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's pretty close. There are 6 different categories that people can fill to sit on the design review board. And right now we can appoint any of those 6. So if one of them is planning commissioner, one of them is architect, like Nick is. Some of those positions we can have more than one person that meets the criteria. Like architect, we can have multiple architects on the board, but we can't have multiple planning commissioners. So if the only qualification for someone to sit on the board is that they're a planning commissioner, we can only appoint one of those people. And I believe that both Larry and Tom Brown their only merits to be appointed are by being planning commissioners. So we need to choose one of those 2.
Okay.
And we have 2 positions to fill.
Yes.
So with that being said, Brett, would you like to weigh in on this since you are the president? And since we already kind of interviewed Mr. Brown.
Yeah, that would be lovely. Well, let's start with Nick. He was first up. He would be for the architect's position. I would say, besides myself, he's the only one who sat on the other side of the table for the design review board. And there's a lot to be said for that, to see it from the other side and be involved in the process and understand what you're doing to the people who are applying to the process. So I want to give him some street cred for that one. I don't know him past that. Obviously, he is really good at reading everything because that's what he does for a living. Larry sounds like he can definitely read plans. I will say from his response, he will not be concise when he's probably at the meetings, but he's definitely eloquent. He can get his point across very well. He sounds highly educated. So in that respect, compared to, I believe, Tom Brown, who has never read a plan, which could be tough. I mean, you can learn that. It's not impossible. There's definitely ways to get used to that. But that would be an advantage of Larry to Tom. Tom seemed very open-minded and willing to absorb information. And there's plenty of people I've seen that come on the board that are more out of a citizen's realm, and have that kind of open perspective that's non-architect, which is cool too. It's good to have a diverse board. So I don't want to disqualify him based on that. I think that maybe Katrina could speak to that as well.
Okay, Katrina.
Thanks, Brett. Sorry, my phone's ringing off the hook this afternoon. I concur with what Brett just said. I think she eloquently described the candidates. Mr. Coastal, again, we worked with him. My staff has worked with him kind of across the counter, and they have good relationships with him. So I think that says something. Even in potential areas of disagreement, we can still be professional, and Mr. Coastal shows that. Between the 2 planning commissioners, I do think that Larry, as he stated and as Brett mentioned, he has significant plan review capabilities that I think would benefit the board. I do think he also brings in kind of a unique community perspective, as he described, wanting to look at certain design components and how we apply those. He mentioned trees, for instance. So I do think we would get that with Larry. Mr. Brown, he is also a very educated, highly qualified individual. The one downside, again, that Brett also mentioned is that he doesn't have experience reviewing plans. And I can see that being a little bit of needing some time from staff and also DRB members. So it may not be a hit the ground running like sounds like Mr. Bradbury would be.
Okay. I see Mr. Brown is now in the waiting room.
He is, yes.
Okay. Do we want to, Councilmember Denson, are we still good for your schedule?
Yeah, it would be great if we could go ahead and interview him.
Let's do it. Let's get this taken care of. Wrap this puppy up, as they say.
Hope we don't hurt the puppy.
No, we
The
just
animals. were
carefully wrap it in a ribbon, little bow.
Carefully would be good.
Mr. Brown, are you able to hear us? And if so, we see you on mute. You can unmute. Still on mute, maybe, I think it's *6. Oh, maybe
There
unmute.
it comes.
How's that?
Are you there? Can you hear us, sir?
I can. Can you see me?
I can't see you, but we can hear you.
Well, let's see if I can be seen here.
There we
he
are.
is.
How's that?
Excellent.
Yay.
And thank you for joining us again. I'm just going to ask again if it's okay if we call you Tom.
Please do.
Excellent. And you're familiar with everyone here, so I won't do any introductions. If you're ready, we'll jump right into the questions.
Yes.
Okay, and it'll be kind of just a review here. So number one, please introduce yourself and let us know why you'd be on the design review board.
Yeah. I'm a resident of Gig Harbor, and I intend to remain a resident of Gig Harbor as long as I can. I've been on the Planning Commission for the last 2 years. I've also served on the Civil Service Commission, and I've enjoyed this volunteer service. I'm very interested in the Design Review Board. I think it is a good thing to have an active member of the Planning Commission also be a member of the Design Review Board. In the last few days, I've listened to or tuned in to 8 or 9 or 10 of the DRB meetings in 2021 on YouTube, and I found them to be very interesting. I think I could participate and make a contribution. I'm not, I don't suggest that I am fully ready to contribute, but I think it wouldn't be long before I would be able to contribute along with the rest of the members. I found them to be very friendly occasions. I really like the idea of hearing from the project folks and seeing that interface between the city staff, the DRB, and the project teams. I think that that's illuminating, and I look forward to seeing more of that. The other thing I should mention is that I have some vision limitations, but they haven't been significantly difficult in my service on the Planning Commission or the Civil Service Commission. So I simply want to make you aware of them, but I don't think any sort of special accommodation would be required. And having said all that, any questions?
Well, I have one. Thank you. And I'm sorry to hear about your eyesight, Mr. Brown. You answered this a little bit, but my question to ask you is, do you have any knowledge of the Design Review Board and its role?
Well, as I said,
Yeah.
I sat through all of your 2021 meetings on YouTube, and yeah, I think I have a fairly good understanding of the role of the DRB. And as I said, I found it quite interesting and look forward to participate in that in the future.
Thank you.
And Tom, likewise, I have, my husband has sight issues, so I understand a little bit. Do you have experience reading and interpreting site plans and elevation drawings?
No, I really don't. But and that was one of the things I was
looking for when I sat through the records of all those meetings. And I think that there's some learning that I need to do, but I don't find it intimidating. And I actually found the technical content of the DRB meetings, that the 8 or 10 that I listened to not be intimidating. I mean, I wasn't lost by any means. And I mean, I know what a 6-foot retaining wall is, and I suspect I can learn how to recognize that on a site plan.
Thank you.
And Tom, do you possess any particular expertise that would benefit the board?
Yeah, I've done a lot of reviewing of things in my career. I've spent a lot of time trying to analyze what the issues were, and I've spent a lot of time seeking resolution of conflict, seeking ways to negotiate a solution to differences that would be satisfactory, if not delightful, to both groups. So I think that kind of general business experience will be useful.
All right, Tom, what do you find special and unique about Gig Harbor?
Well, it's the one place in Washington that I decided I'd like to live in, or the number one place, put it that way. I mean, Gig Harbor is a delightful spot. I mean, start with the geography. There aren't that many protected, sheltered harbors in all of Puget Sound. I mean, they're just, it's a wonderful location. We live in Spinnaker Ridge, right off Soundview. We have lovely views of the Sound and some of our neighbors. And you know, I'm happy here, and I'll be happy here as long as I can stay here. I'll put it that way. It's a terrific place to live.
Yes, it is. I think we can all agree with that. The Design Review Board meets on the 2nd and 4th Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. The Planning Commission meets on the 1st and 3rd Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. So this is going to tie up your Thursdays for what, 3 years or whatever. So this is a pretty big commitment. And I know that you understand the continuity of attending all these meetings. So do you have any other commitments that would keep you from attending the Thursday night meetings?
No, I don't. I'm
Thank
prepared
you.
to do that.
Yeah, thanks.
And Tom, final question. Do you have anything you'd like to add or any questions for us about the Design Review Board?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. What I noted in watching the meetings is that the staff reports were very useful and important, I think, to the business of the DRB at those meetings. Are those generally circulated in advance in the meeting packet? The staff reports?
That's probably Katrina.
Yes, by statute, we need to put them out a week prior by our code. And
I
so
got it.
those are sent over to DRB members as well as put on our city website.
Okay. The other thing I have a question about is one of the things that continues to surprise me is how little public participation we have in these noticed meetings. What are your thoughts about that? And have you tried things in the past to stimulate more public participation, or what do you think? Is there room for improvement here, or what?
I think that is an age-old question, especially in government. I can tell you that between hosting the site, I think that's a big one. People see an orange or white notice board go on a piece of property. That usually indicates that something is going to happen, in particular for the people that live around a certain area. So I think that's number one. Number two, we also notice within 300 feet by a USPS. So folks within 300 feet of a proposed project area will receive something in their mailbox. And as well, we have a website that allows for you to either get email or text notifications of DRB meetings in general or of specific projects. So is there room for improvement? Always, I think we can do things to improve to get our citizens to participate. Do I think the city is doing what it can within cost measures? I fully believe that. We go above and beyond what's required by the state. So no, that isn't a definitive answer, but at least gives you a view of what we do accomplish in terms of noticing.
Thanks.
Okay. And Tom, we'd like to thank you for your time today. We do have, or we did have 3 candidates to look at and 2 positions to fill, but we will have an answer for you sometime this afternoon or by tomorrow.
Terrific.
And again,
Thanks for
thank
the
you for your time and
opportunity.
thank you for your already volunteership.
Thanks, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Jenny. Yeah.
Zoom webinar.
Jenny,
Oh,
we still have Mr. Brown still in our meeting.
I'm trying to get out of your meeting here.
There we go.
so I would like to speak especially to Nick Costel.
Okay.
Before I was on the city council, I attended planning commission meetings. I attended some design review board committee meetings, and I found it very concerning that we would have a design firm proposing something out of the ordinary to the design review board when we had one member of that firm sitting on the design review board.
Okay.
That is a great concern to me. And I would prefer that we continue looking for another architect, someone that doesn't sit on a company that, I don't know how often Gagliano comes to the design review board, but let's remember that people generally come to the design review board when they want to do something a little bit outside of the norm. Is that right, Katrina?
Yes, projects come to the design review board if they do not prescriptively meet the requirements, but they can achieve them in other ways the design review board can approve if it's a superior result.
So that is concerning to me a lot. And I obviously I'm not going to support this candidate, and I would really like I'd like to see us go out and try to get another architect that maybe from another area or something that does not belong to a company that appears before the design review board to look for something that doesn't conform to our already code. I just have seen too many conversations take place, and it is concerning to me. So I'll just say that.
Okay.
May I speak to that for 1 minute?
Yeah, I was
Am I
just going to ask you
totally-
if you're.
Yeah, I totally understand, Jenny. I get where you're coming from. The reason there's a protection within our committee that we have to recuse ourselves from projects that we have any hands in or any connection to. And that is there for that precise reason. So the rest of there's a quorum, right? So those people can recuse themselves and there will still be enough people to advocate for that project who aren't related to it.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that.
Oh, okay, okay.
I still would like us to go out and try to find, to put a call out for another architect. That's my personal preference, but I am happy to nominate, I guess, for approval, Larry Bradbury for the one position from planning and going into the design review board. So I'm happy to put his name up for nomination for approval.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yeah, I will second that. I will just say that I've met with Tom over the years, and I think he would do a great job as well. I appreciate Larry being able to hit the ground running and understanding how to read the plans, and I concur. He has an advantage in that. I would just like to say that Tom has a passion for Gig Harbor. He has great ideas. He's come to me with just fabulous ideas. So I think that he's somebody that we're very fortunate to have on the planning commission, and I'm excited that he wants to do more for the city, and maybe we consider him in the future. But Larry also seemed wonderful, so I'm happy to second that.
Okay, so do we need to take a vote for Larry?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Robin, did you say aye?
Yes, I
Okay,
think.
that's 3. So then are we, is Tom Brown, is that position then not available to him? Because anyone who comes back twice,
I know.
I think that's a very important thing to recognize, that shows a lot of passion and commitment and dedication. But we only need now can't think of the word.
Yeah, I guess Tom doesn't qualify under any of the other. If he was an architect or a landscaper or any of these others, he could do it.
Okay, so we got.
And you know what, I'll just say in terms of Nick, I mean, I think it would be great to have an architect, obviously, on the design review board, but I share Jenny's concern because that's valid. And it's, even if you recuse yourself, everyone knows what firm you work for, and it can make it more difficult for the other members.
Yep.
So I don't know, maybe we don't, get him out completely, but maybe we hold off on that position and see if we can find some additional candidates that are architects, or like Brett mentioned, a landscape architect that, would be good to have on the board.
Do we need any other categories on that board, Josh?
We don't have any other required categories, no.
Can any of the required categories be twice?
Some of them can. I think all of the rest, besides planning commissioner, we can choose from at this point. So that would be, let me pull up my list.
And Josh has worked with Laura Pettit, the tourism and communications director, to put out a call for specifically landscape architect applicants. I think that was based on Chair DeSantis's recommendation, and the board concurred with her at our last meeting that is an area of expertise that the board currently needs. So if this committee does go down that road, Josh and I will continue to work with Laura to advocate to get applicants that have that landscape architect background.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think it'd be amazing if we did that, for sure. I just want to say, just so we're really clear though, that while Nick does work for a firm, I own my own firm, Darren owns his own firm, and Marlene owns her own firm. So I just want to be really clear that we all have businesses in the city.
So that was going to lead to my question is, what if someone like Nick were on the board and his firm, like in the future, his firm were doing some kind of work with the city? Would they then, how would we handle that situation? I guess we have that baked in because they would have to recuse themselves.
Yes, within the design review board, in the bylaws, that person would need to recuse themselves. And again, as Brett mentioned, her, Darren, and Marlene would do that if they put forward a project. I do understand what Councilmember Wook and Denson are saying, but just to offer the other side that Brett was talking about, we do have board members that sometimes will need to recuse themselves. And one of our members in particular, Darren Filand, if it's a project that he's been involved in, for instance, and it's the only one on the agenda, he will not attend the meeting in order to kind of not complicate that board relationship. That that's not currently required in the bylaws. There is additionally within the design review board, anyone that has had communication outside of the project or knows some additional information that was not prepared by the staff report, they have to disclose that at the beginning of the meeting. And then the design review board collectively determines if that member can stay on to hear the case or if they need to be dismissed. So there are those two kind of safeguards that are currently within the bylaws.
Okay. Well, how about we just give them the fairness of at least having a up or down vote, and that way we at least cover that base. And so I'll nominate Mr. Costello if anyone has a second, and if not, we can go forward or go from there. So I do not.
Is it possible to hold his application for a bit longer? Because I hear what Brett's saying and what Katrina's saying too, and apparently he's not the only one on the board with potential conflict. So I hate to hold that against him. Can we hold it to find some other candidates or to attempt to find some other candidates and maybe revisit
If
it?
you're asking me as president, if we can, I have no objection to that. If there's a rule preventing that.
There's no rule preventing it, so you can wait and collect more applications and then make a decision at the next meeting if you'd like to do that.
And
Okay.
can we include also the landscape architect in the call?
Yeah, that's already in the announcement. Yep.
Okay, great,
I went out on Facebook, I think 2
Great.
weeks ago, so we can send that out again.
great. I would love to, quite
Thank you,
frankly, I would love to see us take a look at the design review board and as a council and see, or however we get this done, and take a look at really who we want on the design review board. If we want people that go by what's in our municipal code, or if we're looking for people who want to subvert our municipal code for their projects. I'd love to take a look at that sometime. I don't know how we get there to do that, but I would love to take a look at that sometime.
Okay. So there was no second for my nomination. So I guess we'll tell Mr. Costello that we'd like to have him come back. Is that what we're saying? Or
You don't have to re-interview him again if you don't want to, but you can, well, I can just let him know that you're going to wait to make a decision until next month.
okay. And then we need to contact Mr. Brown and tell him.
Yep.
He did not make it, unfortunately. And then Mr. Bradbury, we're on. So Brett, are you okay with all that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's wise to wait to see if you get any landscape people. I think it's a really big gap, and I would highly recommend that. In fact, I went out, I know a couple people, asked Scott Young, but he's on the light board, and so he has a conflict on Thursday nights. Otherwise, I think he would be great. But I think someone you can recruit. I mean, we do have a lot of architects and those type on the board. So Jenny, you have a great point. I do think a landscaper would be a better choice. However, if you can't find one, then I would say Nick's a great choice too.
Okay. And so we're not leaving the DRB in any kind of lurch or anything like that?
Oh, by no means.
Okay.
So before we end, then I would like to ask Josh, Josh, how do we go about if we want to change the qualifications for the DRB? How do we do that?
It's the same process that you did when you changed all the qualifications a couple of years ago when you added the 3-year terms and the term limits. It's all in the same code chapter. In your packet, I think there's a link in the description of the DRB that links to the code, so you can look that up and see what you'd like to change on that.
So does this come from this commission and we talk about it and then we give it to the council, or what is the process?
Probably the best way to do it, because it's not one of your specific tasks for this committee, is to bring it up in your council comments and ask council to task the committee with doing it.
Okay.
Hey, Jenny, I would love to tell you that. I think that is a valuable process, but so is the review of the design review manual itself, because I believe if that is well overdue. And
well overdue.
Yeah, exactly. So if you reviewed that, you probably wouldn't have as many projects coming to the design review board to begin with. You know what I mean? Because it would be, it would make more sense for what's going on. Like right now, the design review manual makes everything Millville, and not everything here is Millville, right? You've got like Finholm, and you've got different districts, and the manual does not deal with that whatsoever. So if it did deal with it, this would be a much cleaner process.
So Katrina, this, I believe the design review board, wasn't that on our budget for 2021? And because we had staffing issues, then it didn't go forward. Is that what I remember?
That's correct. It is something that I am including into my proposed budget for 2022 for council consideration. So we do intend on putting some additional funds. Well, I'll be requesting some additional funds on top of what I requested for the fiscal year 2021 budget to have more of a consultant driven approach, noting that, you know, staff is still as busy as they are, even when we are near fully staffed. So
Yeah.
we are putting that forward, and I couldn't agree more with Brett that it's time to look at it.
Hallelujah. So then let's hope that we can convince the other council members that this is a vital step that we need for the good of the future of Gig Harbor. So thank you, Brett. Thank you, Katrina.
So I've got two questions. First question, one's for Jenny, one's for Brett. So Brett, I'll ask Brett first.
Sure.
Does Gig Harbor have a architectural style that we try to adhere to? Like, I'll use an example, Leavenworth, and I'm not trying to get Gig Harbor to become.
Yeah, Bavarian. Yeah.
But you know, we're kind of described as a Scandinavian, Norwegian type town. But do we try to do anything towards that aesthetic in any way?
Yeah, I that's why I said I was attributing Millville, that we try to Millville everything, right?
So-
Which Millville is so stinking cool, but if you have everything look like Millville, what does Millville become?
So
Right?
aside from the word Millville, I mean, is there, I mean, we're not obviously not Victorian or anything like that.
Right.
Is there a style that we?
So you might
It's
talk
just-
about the historic district.
Yeah, it's a set of parameters, really. You know, it's meeting a certain window design and ratio, and you know, it's a little bit mathematical, but you can see it when you drive around Gig Harbor. The people who prescribe, you know, and it's not. Let me tell you something. Prescribing doesn't always work the best for the building. Sometimes it's a real disservice to do that rather than have the boroughs. Well, I like to call them boroughs, but like the different elements of Gig Harbor really feed into who they are, and they're historic in different ways, right? Finholm is different than Millville, and so on and so forth downtown. I think the design review manual was meant to be a great use at the time and it helped out in many ways. But now I think it's hindering in some ways that that could be alleviated. So sometimes we almost consider ourselves design relief board, not because we want to be outside the manual per se or buck the rules, but because it doesn't make sense sometimes. You know what I mean? And if we had a new revised manual that did make sense for those areas, and Jenny, they would have the vibe you wanted them to have, right? Because you put it out there, then they're not fighting anything they don't have to fight, you know?
Yeah. So that
Okay.
makes totally sense. I look forward to that conversation when it comes up, hopefully next year.
Cool. Awesome.
And
Thanks
my
for
question-
asking.
Thank you. My question to you, Jenny, is do you want to ask the question to council, or do you want me to answer or ask the question to council? And if so, would you email me the question that you want asked? Or if you
So
want-
I don't really have a question. I am sort of withdrawing that question about us redoing anything because Ms. Knutson, Director Knutson, is going to be working on the design review manual for 2022. And if she and Brett agree that this is really the way to the first step to go, then I would agree with that as well. So
Great. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, if we have no other business, do we
I
have
have a
any-
motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.